How long does it take for you to go absolutely feral when a loved one or friend of yours goes missing? 4, 5, or 8 hours? Well, in the case of filing a report for missing persons, usually one must be missing for a solid 24 hours before an official report can be filed.
In some cases of missing people, they have been gone for too long and are therefore presumed dead. But let us tell you about stories of missing people mysteriously found alive under surprising circumstances after a long period of time.
Hey guys, we're back. I am Nick.
And I am Josh, and we're from Eventful Insights.
Today we'll be talking about an interesting topic: cases of people who have been reported missing for years and then later found alive.
One of them was surprisingly found in a nearby town where the missing person disappeared. Here are 6 missing people that were mysteriously found alive.
Before we begin, why don't we have some little trivia game? In light of our topic, can you guess the answer to this question?
What is the longest time for an active missing case in the United States? You have 5 seconds to put your guesses in the comments below.
And time is up. To know if you guessed it correctly, make sure to watch until the end of the video.
Let us now begin with our first person on the list. She is named Lucy Ann Johnson. In September 1961, Lucy Ann Johnson vanished, and her husband reported her disappearance in 1965, becoming a suspect in her potential murder. But in 2013, to their surprise, Johnson was located alive. But here's what's more surprising. She revealed that she had left due to enduring abuse from her husband. Linda Evans discovered her birth mother, Lucy, residing in the Yukon after she disappeared for over 5 decades. Evans was around 7 years old when she last laid eyes on her. The Surrey RCMP shared that Lucy was initially reported missing by her husband Marvin in 1965. However, it turned out she hadn't been seen since 1961. Suspecting a possible crime, the police investigated and even dug up the family's yard in North Surrey based on a neighbor's report of Marvin digging a septic field. Police considered charging Marvin, but they couldn't find enough evidence to proceed. Despite challenges, Linda, Johnson's daughter, persisted in her search. After the Surrey RCMP highlighted her mom's case in the Missing of the Month series, Linda placed newspaper ads in northern BC containing details about the story and a photo. According to an RCMP spokesperson, someone who saw the ad recognized the woman in the photo as their mother. The police revealed that this person had no knowledge of their mom's earlier marriage and family.
That was a really long time of missing your mother, Josh. Now, let's move on to a much more intense case of a missing person found alive in the years after. Number 2 on our list is a case about Jaycee Dugard. Jaycee Dugard was kidnapped in 1990 in Lake Tahoe by Philip and Nancy Garrido. She was then discovered to be alive in 2009. Dugard was born on May 3, 1980, making her only 10 years old at the time she was kidnapped. For a duration of 18 years, she resided in a makeshift structure in the Garridos' backyard. Philip sadly raped her and impregnated her, which resulted in Dugard giving birth to 2 daughters during her captivity, one at 14 and another at 17. The girls were brought up to address the Garridos as their mom and dad, under the belief that Jaycee was their older sister. Dugard was rescued when campus security at the University of California, Berkeley, discovered that the Garridos, who were on campus for a speaking permit, had no record of having children. Garrido, a convicted sex offender, wanted to speak about managing schizophrenia. The university's special events manager, noticing suspicious behavior, contacted campus police, leading to a background check that raised concerns about the children. During a meeting with his parole officer, Garrido admitted to kidnapping and raping Alyssa, who revealed herself as Jaycee Dugard. Investigators suspect that Jaycee may have developed Stockholm Syndrome during her time in captivity, which is a psychological coping mechanism that arises in captive or abusive situations, leading individuals to develop positive feelings towards their captors or abusers over time. Since her rescue, Dugard authored A Stolen Life and lives a private life with her daughters, seeking a new normal away from public scrutiny.
That was indeed an intense case, Nick. It's a good thing Dugard found her way to freedom. Speaking of freedom, number 3 on our list is an interesting case that happened during the war. This story is about Hiro Onoda. Japanese soldier Hiro Onoda was sent to Lubang in the Philippines in 1944 and was told to stay and defend the remote island until the Japanese army came back. Onoda took his orders very seriously and fought a guerrilla war on the island for over 10,000 days until he finally gave up and surrendered in 1974. Refusing to accept that the war was over after Japan's defeat in August 1945, Onoda used his guerrilla warfare training to mistakenly attack around 30 people, thinking they were enemy soldiers. Despite search parties showing Onoda photos of his family, he remained unconvinced that Japan had lost. He believed the images were fake because his hometown had been bombed and rebuilt, and the buildings in the pictures didn't match his memories. He only agreed to surrender when his former commanding officer visited his hideout on the island of Lubang in the northwestern Philippines and convinced him that the war had indeed ended. Onoda later clarified that he thought efforts to get him to leave were a scheme created by the pro-US government in Tokyo. When he finally surrendered, he had been on the island since 1944, 2 years after he was drafted into the Japanese Imperial Army.
Those were insane stories, Josh, the kind that you think you'll only see in the movies.
Speaking of movies, I have a little trivia prepared for you guys. Which of these movies do you think has the highest IMDb rating when it comes to abduction movies based on true stories? Is it A, I Know My First Name is Steven, or B, Believe Me, The Abduction of Liza McVeigh? You have 5 seconds to comment on your answers below.
All right, time's up. The correct answer is A. I Know My First Name is Steven. If you haven't watched that movie, you might be interested if you're into abduction movies based on real stories.
Now let's continue with the last 3 persons on our list. Number 4 on our list, Edgar Lep. On September 2nd, 1986, 21-year-old Edgar Lep from Kitchener, Ontario, Canada, bought a bus ticket to Niagara Falls and seemingly disappeared without a trace. When he went missing, Lep was on medication for psychological issues and had developmental delays. His mother, Sylvia Wilson, explained that despite being an adult, he functioned at a child's level and had spent a significant part of his life moving between psychiatric hospitals and group homes. It took more than 30 years for a major breakthrough in the case. On February 10, 2016, it was revealed that Lep was found alive and well in St. Catharines. The Waterloo Regional Police Service disclosed that in 1986, Lep had left the Waterloo region and headed towards St. Catharines. He had a head injury shortly after reaching the Niagara region, severely affecting his memory. After the injury, Lep couldn't remember who he was or where he came from. With no memory, he created a new identity and life, completely unaware that his family in Waterloo had been desperately searching for him. Edgar Lep's case is the longest time someone was missing before being found, and it's the only known situation where a person solved their own cold case.
Hey, we're now down to our last 2 persons on the list. Number 5 story is about Lula Kora Hood. Lula Kora Hood disappeared in 1970. Family members say she left home one day and never returned. She was also said to be suffering mental health issues. Despite police suggesting remains found in 1996 were hers, the family, unable to perform DNA testing then, held a memorial service and buried the remains. In 2009, advancements in technology revealed the remains were not Hood's, but belonged to another woman. Grace Cavisto, one of her biological daughters, mentioned that Phillips disappeared after being told by 2 aunts to leave and not return, but she didn't specify which aunts. As it turns out, Phillips had 14 children over her lifetime. Collie Knox, one of the 14, was adopted and raised by an aunt in Galesburg, a sister of Lula Kora. Collie Knox, from Ohio, explained that her mother faced mental health challenges and all 14 children were put up for adoption. 7 of the children are aware of each other, but the family is unaware of the whereabouts of the others.
And finally, number 1. Are you ready to hear one of the craziest real-life stories to ever exist? This story is about the kidnapping of Shannon Matthews. On February 19, 2008, Karen Matthews reported her 9-year-old daughter, Shannon Matthews, missing in Dewsbury, West Yorkshire, when she didn't come home from school. Karen portrayed herself as a distressed mother, appealing for her daughter's safe return for 24 days. While the nation was captivated by Shannon's story, the investigation later uncovered that not everyone in the Matthews family had been truthful. A few days after Shannon disappeared, Detective Superintendent Andy Brennan shared that an adult reported seeing her the day after she was reported missing. The person claimed to have spotted her around 9:15 a.m. on Moorside Road, which is just a few streets away from her house. On March 14, 2008, a significant and surprising turn of events occurred when she was found hidden within the base of a divan bed in an apartment situated in Batley Car, approximately a mile from her family's residence. More shockingly, the apartment belonged to Michael Donovan, who happened to be the uncle of Craig Meehan, Karen's boyfriend. Donovan was arrested for kidnapping and false imprisonment after his downstairs neighbor heard children's footsteps from above and alerted the police. To the nation's horror, Karen was arrested a couple of weeks later, charged with child neglect and perverting the course of justice. It was later revealed that Shannon had been the victim of an elaborate scheme orchestrated by her mother and Donovan to claim the reward money offered for her disappearance. The plan involved Donovan eventually finding Shannon, bringing her to the police, and sharing the reward money with Karen.
That story was sure worth the wait, right? It just proves how such horrifying events can really happen in real life. Now, let's reveal the answer to the trivia game earlier. The longest time for an active missing case in the United States is 98 years. This case belongs to Marvin Clark, who has been missing since 1926.
Which case of the missing people has shocked you the most? Tell us in the comments below.
And if you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to give us a like, click subscribe, and ring the notification bell to get notified on our next video. Thanks for watching.